Hello and welcome to Hippie Hyena. You know, one of my most popular videos on my channel so far is the video that I did calling out Posie Parker as the bigot she is. And so I thought this week, why not revisit Posie and see what she's up to right now.
Hello, how are you doing? Let me talk to you about what happened to me today. So I was unsuspecting. Somebody messaged me and said, "Did you know this particular thread was going on?" So the last time I saw you, I was giving my opinion on the Trump-Biden talk. Hi, Jose, you made it first. Good evening. And the thing I said is that as a voter, if I was a floating voter, I don't think I would have been any better off having watched the debate.
I mean, I haven't watched all of that debate, but I've seen highlights. And to be frank, if it wasn't immediately obvious which one is the better candidate, then you're probably an idiot. And to be honest, at this stage, if you're a floating voter, you're probably an idiot. It's like, who's sitting around going, I wonder who I could choose out of very sort of centristy, bland, neoliberal, smiling grandfather, who is a little bit creepy, I'll be honest. Either them, or a literal Cheeto-dusted wannabe Hitler, who's put children in cages and sterilised their mothers. Is quite possibly the leading cause of death during the COVID epidemic worldwide. If you think that's a tough decision, you've got serious perception problems.
But I thought it was entertaining. And evening, Turfy, very glad to see you.
Nope, I'm not going to let that slide. One of her listeners is literally called Turfy. That is, wow, that's just wow.
And I just thought, I was being quite honest. And I've told myself for quite some time now, if not always, but I don't want to be a liar or a hypocrite.
Yeah, that ship sailed quite a long time ago, Posie, I'm afraid. You're kind of trying to shut the barn door after the horses bolted.
But I think I've told myself that I hate the silencing so much of others.
Well, that's not true, is it, Posie? Your kind of whole shtick is kind of based around silencing and invalidating others, so that's kind of hypocritical on the first hurdle. You failed there.
And the way that we, as women who recognise women don't have penises.
And there you have it. Quite astounding, really. I mean, if there was some sort of prize handed out to people who were able to make a statement and then directly contradict it in the very next statement in rapid succession, I think Posie might win it. A constant slew of hypocritical contradictions just directly after she said she tries not to be a hypocrite. It's like, I don't know, bobbing for nuggets of idiocy in a bowl of irony water.
And that transing children is abuse.
And imaginary.
That I have recognised that potentially I have engaged in the sort of silence, shaming, awful tactics. I hope I haven't, but I can't honestly hand on heart say I never have.
Now this here is what is sometimes referred to as the British understatement. It means when we as British people, maybe we describe something as that's a little bit dodgy, when what we really mean is that it's totally fucked. A rare moment of almost sort of honesty.
But I've promised myself that I will not be silenced by the normal shaming tactics that have been used right across the board to silence women like myself from saying that we shouldn't transition children.
But here's the thing, Posie, you should be silenced on that. Just in the same way that if somebody was like saying that Jews trying to replace the white race with black people in some sort of nefarious, paedophilic, satanic scheme is wrong, because that's not happening. And speaking out against it, in inverted commas, as if it is real, is dishonest, incredibly damaging, and is hate speech, really.
I've sort of made this pact with myself that even when I'm being called all of the names and having pretty awful criticisms.
Oh, awful criticisms. You've suffered awful criticisms. For a person who talks about not wanting people to be silenced, she's got a very unusual attitude towards criticism. Unusual in the sense that it's weird, not unusual in the sense that it's not incredibly commonplace amongst people on the right like herself.
That I'm not going to do it. I can't do it because then I'm a hypocrite.
I'll say it again, Posie. That ship has gone right over the horizon several years ago.
So that's how I feel about this right now. I should be able to say that there are things about people like Trump that are good things.
Like what? I mean, to be honest, I can't think of a single damn thing that's good about Trump. Not one. I mean, as a politician, he's terrible. As a human being, he's disgusting. He doesn't even have taste, like some millionaires do. I mean, he's not even a good businessman. Made terrible television. Surrounds himself with idiots. I mean, no, I can't think of a single thing. There's nothing good about Trump at all. Every single thing is negative. But I am, on the other hand, completely unsurprised that someone like Posie Parker manages to find something she likes about Trump. You know, she's one of those people who sort of pretends to be a centrist. You know, the whole enlightened centrism meme. Uses the language of the left, but the material actions of the hard right. I mean, her whole thing is persecuting a minority, so of course she's going to love Trump. She's not going to admit that she loves Trump, because that would be a bit too mask-slipping. She still wants to maintain the fake respectable veneer of a put-upon minority whilst being in one of the most mega privileged positions that exists on this planet and trying to maintain that privilege. I mean, it's no surprise that she would defend Trump because their politics are perfectly aligned. Perfectly. But I mean, imagine pretending to be a feminist whilst commending the grab her by the pussy president. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Without being shamed into not being able to have that opinion because of who he is rather than the thing it is that I'm talking about.
For a start off, no idea what you're talking about, and I don't really care. But here's the deal, people don't get shamed for no reason. People get shamed for doing and saying shameful things. And pretty much everything about you, Posie, is quite shameful, you know? You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed of the things you've said and the things you've done, the people you've persecuted and harassed for being a minority, the hate speech that you've peddled, that you spent most of your time doing. You should be ashamed. If there's something in this world that people should be ashamed for, it's the stuff that you've done, Posie. You should be ashamed, and all right-thinking people should shame you. They've got an ethical responsibility to do so. And if as a result of that shaming, they manage to silence you, well, that's just gravy.
Of what happened to me today, and I want you to be aware that this is what happens to women on the left.
I don't know how you know about that, Posie, because you're not on the left. I mean, that's not what happens to women on the left. People like Ash Sarkar, she doesn't get, shamed for supporting Trump. She gets weird QAnon death threats. Diane Abbott doesn't get called out for being a transphobic bigot. She gets a lot of weird, racist, white supremacist death threats and hate mail. What you get, Posie, is the same kind of criticism that women on the right receive. Because you're on the right. I mean, you just literally defended Trump. I mean, how many left-wing women or men or whatever gender have you ever heard of that spend the majority of their time having a go at a minority and trying to take away their rights and spreading far-right propaganda about them? Because that's just not something that people on the left do. That's something we fight against.
So I would have called myself this.
And you would have been lying.
This is why being on the left is not a safe place for women. At all.
And here's an example of why. Because you peddle in right-wing fantasies and basically fight everything that the left stands for. This nugget of propaganda that the left isn't a safe space for women. Absurd, and is taken directly from a list of right-wing talking points. I mean, it's the sort of thing you might expect from Tucker Carlson or Tim Pool. Everything about you, Posie, is right-wing. Everything. You're trying to hold up traditionalist views of people's roles in society in the face of all scientific evidence against you, because really, at heart, what you like to do is bully people who can't stand up for themselves. And nobody on the left is fooled by this. Nobody thinks that you're left-wing. Everyone knows you're as alt-right as Sargon of f***ing Akkad.
And this is women, particularly on the left. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that happened. Now, there is a woman called Gail Dines who has done some incredible work about the harms of pornography.
And there's another reason why you're not on the left. People on the left generally support sex workers. And it's interesting that, regardless of the motivations you claim to have, every action that you want to take perfectly aligns with the sort of evangelical Christian maniac right. You notice that, Posie? Maybe that's part of the reason why the left doesn't like you. Why you don't get invited to the cool parties. And why you're stuck in the same category as Milo Yiannopoulos and Tommy Robinson.
And Gail often works with people across the aisle.
Oh, really? Quelle surprise! Imagine my shock.
That she will work with other women who are on all kinds of sides of the aisle in order to further her cause and let more and more people know what's going on.
It's just funny, it's just a weird coincidence that most of the people who want to work with her on this cause are on the right side of the aisle. That's just pure weird coincidence. Nothing to worry about. Jesus Christ. And this perfectly sums up Posie Parker. She's the worst kind of terrible cosplayer. Mildly wearing a thin veneer of left-wing feminism whilst peddling all of the hate and idiocy of the right wing, but hoping that thin veneer will allow her to penetrate polite society, and when it won't, she crybabies about it and claims that she's being silenced, and basically insults women everywhere for their struggle against being actually silenced by comparing her incredibly privileged position to theirs. In short, Posie Parker is a bigot, a crybaby, and pretty much the worst kind of person in existence.